Hey everyone, this is Ryan Rappaport with Digital Venture Partners, and we're here to present another Investing Forum panel with Chicago Normal. And we have three guests today. Everyone, we're going to have you do a quick intro. Shanita, if you wouldn't mind starting first, and then Shayun, and then Dustin.
Sure thing. Shanita Penny, founder and principal of Budding Solutions. We are a boutique cannabis business consulting firm based in Baltimore, Maryland. We focus on business strategy as well as policy development.
Hey, my name is Sharon Dadigy. I'm the founder and CEO of Elevate Cannabis. We're a multi-state operator. We have operations in Oregon and also Massachusetts. We have 3 licenses, and we're looking to open up pretty soon. But COVID-19 has put a pause on a lot of our opening dates, so to be determined on when we will reopen.
Dustin Williams, head of brand development and partner at Bilo Brands. We operate in 4 states. Currently, we're in California, Colorado, Oregon, and Michigan. And like Shane said, we're because of COVID, we're looking to go in a couple more markets, but we got everything on pause right now.
Yeah, obviously, the elephant in the room there with COVID, but I know that everyone is still out there hustling and working hard. I think everyone here brings a really unique perspective on social equity as operators and as business leaders within the space. So I'd love for you just to talk on that from a business perspective, what that's meant for you. And I know even Shayun, you've had that same issue in Massachusetts. It's been such a lengthy process. Maybe just talk a little bit about some of the challenges and successes you're seeing out there today.
Yeah, so as you guys know, Governor Baker came out and he did essential and non-essential businesses. Medical cannabises are considered essential. Recreational cannabis dispensaries are considered non-essential. So recently we've been working with Vicente Sederberg, working with other cannabis activists to petition the governor to change that mandate to whereby he sees that medical and recreational are essentially the same thing. Now we have alcohol businesses that are currently open in Massachusetts where people are getting drunk. You see violence, and it's crazy. And at the end of the day, all we want is to be treated like a regular business. For us, what sucked was we had the Cannabis Control Commission here in Mass. We had our final investigation that was supposed to take place last month, which would give us the ability to open up. But due to COVID-19, the Cannabis Control Commission has not, due to the safety of their people, which is justified, they have put a pause on in-person final investigation. So what we've been working on is looking at a virtual investigation where we can, go into our dispensaries and virtually show them, the key components of what they're looking for, and show them that we have it, we got it done. So that's right there has been it's still a work in progress, but I have faith that the Cannabis Control Commission, they're looking at different ways to really make things happen.
Great. And Shanita, I'm sure with your work in consulting, you've probably seen a lot of this with the licensing. I mean, I'd love your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, I mean, as COVID was hitting the United States, I was spending quite a bit of time in New York as we were getting closer to a final budget, which we hoped would include adult use legalization. We now know that did not happen for us, and for good reason. Again, the resources are being utilized in places to react to COVID. What we are seeing, though, are, just like in Massachusetts, in California, social equity businesses that were, on the brink of being inspected and ready for operations are at a standstill. What we are seeing with social equity businesses that were in, phase 3 licensing in LA is that, the DCR can't spend any time or resources right now to get through the mess they just got out of with the audit being released. And so social equity once again is being put on the back burner due to something that's beyond our control. But I think that it also sheds light on why social equity is so critical, why it has to be prioritized, and why it has to be a part of legalization day one, and not something that's done as an afterthought.
No, and that's a great point. No, I know Seun because I heard about the Cannabis Control Commission meetings where all of the small business and social equity award winners were essentially protesting because it's been like what a 3-year process for a lot of you. So I know that's been difficult. Dustin, I would love your thoughts on that as well. Anything you might want to add there?
Yeah, I mean, back to like what Shania was saying, we're part of the social equity process out here in LA. I went through it myself before I was with Viola back in 2018 when that was a mess, and we're basically seeing that all over again. So that's been a problem because we started an incubator program to really help the communities out here that are mostly affected by marijuana arrests, right? So everything's on a standstill. We were literally in phase 3, like she mentioned, on a couple of different properties. Both of those properties for dispensaries. I was already putting together dispensary teams for these places. We were already talking about building out and being open soon. So it's just sad to see that everything's on hold, and there's other businesses that are pushing forward. There's other things that are going on, but we have to sit back and just wait. And really, we really don't know when this will end. And the plus side to us right now and the COVID is that delivery services are doing amazing. I'm seeing delivery services basically doing retail numbers. So as a brand, our cultivations are still going, our distributions are still going, and we don't really have to face too many of the problems of dealing with, running a retail. Retails are really, really struggling as far as dealing with the protocols that come with it. And curbside, I mean, Michigan just put in curbside, protocols, and they didn't even have them in place before. You know what I mean? So we're seeing a lot of changes really, really quick. And we're just seeing being held back even more. So.
No, that's a great transition too, because obviously we're living in what we have today and we can only do with what we have with it. What do you all see kind of the trends that are going to, obviously this is bucking the process a little bit, but what do you see are going to be the trends post-COVID? Is it something that's going to stay in terms of, hey, this is how our businesses are running? Are there other lines of business that are going to grow? Shanita, I mean, I'd love your thoughts on that.
I would love to see the temporary provisions for things like curbside pickup and delivery made permanent. This is something that as an advocate, we have been asking for patients to have access to their medicine in whatever way, is feasible. And for some people, it's not easy to drive to a dispensary, find parking. I mean, LA, you named a couple of places that I wouldn't want to have to deal with that. But you look at an epidemic that's now caused us to say, hey, we shouldn't have people, overcrowding a retail environment. We shouldn't have people spending a lot of time in these places. And so I'd like to see it stick. I'd like to see this, become something permanent. The District of Columbia just allowed for delivery today. And honestly, when you look at the legacy market and you look at the regulated market, they're going to be catching up with folks who have been delivering to consumers for a very long time. So I do think that this will allow us, if we're allowed to continue this in the future, it will change our business models and it will allow us to become hopefully more profitable as we continue to bear the burden of 280E and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's great. And everything with the delivery and kind of the platforms have had to step up to that. Dustin, I would love your thoughts on that and what you guys have been utilizing, what's been working for you as well.
I mean, it's really making companies, whether you're a brand or not, it's really making you like work really lean right now. You know what I mean? So you're actually being able to see the real brands and the real operators kind of rise up above all this, amongst, there's brands that have crazy marketing flow that are making them look like they're doing things that they aren't doing. You know what I mean? And they're not able, everyone's on a spending freeze. I know us personally, we've been on a spending freeze since March 11th. So it's really showing, being able to really pull out the light on who can really operate and who really isn't. And I like it, man. We're operating lean. It's making us really, really just kind of go back to the basics. We're a huge lifestyle brand, so we put a lot of money into marketing as well to drive that needle. But It's really just allowing us just to operate, very, very lean. I mean, we're really just focused on Instagram posts, really just driving people. I mean, everyone's on their phones right now. Everyone's on their computers. So we're driving as much, we're posting our deliveries. I mean, you probably see my Instagram every day. I mean, I just posted probably 15 deliveries right now where you can go in the SoCal Central Coast, NorCal, where you can find us right now. And to Sheena's point, I really want to see, curbside and delivery really stick and just really become something permanent, because it's convenience, right? We have food deliveries, we have Uber Eats, we have Dash, we have all these things that are going on for all these other industries. But we need that for cannabis. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have parking in LA. It's not safe for someone elderly at night to have to walk 3-4 blocks just to get their meds. You know what I mean? So I think through this, we're gonna see this stick, because people are gonna be very, very conscious of even going out after this. I mean, we're in LA. I mean, it looks crazy out here. I mean, everyone's got masks on, everyone's got gloves on. No one really wants to talk to anybody. It's like, I mean, it doesn't seem like my city anymore. You know what I mean? I think people are going to be very careful to actually open and go back into the public and restaurants and dispensaries and places of crowds. You know what I mean? People are pretty scared out here and fearful of catching the virus. So it's going to be, it's going to be a weird thing to see out here, because even with the nightlife and those kind of things, like we take advantage of that as a brand, right? We do a lot of lifestyle, events around red carpet events, stuff like that. And I think those things aren't going to exist for a little while. We had to shut down Coachella. We were getting ready to do a huge activation and product drop in Coachella. We had to stop that. Hall of Flowers got canceled. That's one of the biggest things for our industry. So there's so many things that I just want to see go back to normal. But what's going to keep our industry going is our delivery services and our curbside pickups. And it's just a crazy time. I'm lost for words for it right now, really.
Yeah, and speaking of downtown LA, pardon the background noise. That's where I am right now as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you touched on it was really important there, the core business. Obviously everyone wants the glitz and glam of marketing.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that's really going to separate people moving forward here. And Shane, I know that you've been a successful entrepreneur before you came into cannabis, and having operated stores elsewhere. I mean, what do you see as kind of leading that post-market or post-COVID success after this, having operated businesses before?
I think there's going to be a shortage of capital. So we're going to see big MSO struggling. So right now, Acreage fired about 156 employees. We see MedMen letting go of 2,000 plus people. You see cash flow being, they only have 1 month of cash flow in Acreage. MedMen about 5 months. You see the big MSOs. And you see them that they're not, I think, one of our panelists mentioned it earlier. You're really seeing the real brands are going to really emerge. And I think this standstill gives us a reset. It gives brands that are doing the right things the opportunity to focus on and build their foundation. It also gives, outside of cannabis, we're going to see more companies going into stay at home. Like, people are going to be working from home a lot more due to the fact of most big corporation, they lease out about 10,000 square footage of building. They're going to downsize that. And also the benefit to that is now the workforce pool is, you're not going to be, if you want to hire, you can hire anybody all over the United States now. You don't have to be restricted in just Florida in order to get good talents, right? So I think, my perspective is we're going to see the real players emerge, and there's going to be a lot of acquisitions. There's going to be a lot of people that go out of business.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah, no, I think we're already seeing that, right? I mean, there was already the shockwave pre-COVID that was happening, as that was already in the works, and then as it's progressed, it's only gotten worse and sped up the evolution of those businesses cycling out, and it's been pretty crazy to see. But as all of you mentioned, those real business operators are probably going to come out on top of this. And, you know, as business operators and, you know, being akin to what's happening, I'm sure you are all pretty tuned in. What are some of the indicators that you're seeing out there now in terms of your business or that you want to see moving forward? Because a lot of the people who are listening to this are up and coming entrepreneurs or early stage entrepreneurs. And would love to get your thoughts on what are the type of things they should be looking for in their businesses moving forward in cannabis. Dustin, if you wouldn't mind starting that off.
I really just tell people to keep it simple. You know what I mean? I get asked the question all the time, like how can I get in, or how can I get my money in? And you know, I come from the black market, so my transition into the space was a little different than what most people are going to be transitioning into the space now. So I really say keep it simple. You know what I mean? Like, you know, go be humble for one. Go get a bartender job. Go become a brand ambassador and just get your foot in the door, because you just can't become an operator and an owner overnight. I mean, licensing is a shit show, you know, forgive me my language. So it's like, you know, really just get yourself in the door, whatever that looks like. If you're just working at, you know, at expos, you know, get a job at Hall of Flowers for one time. I mean, really just keep it guerrilla style. I mean, get your foot in the door and really find your way up. I mean, it's unless you're sitting on M's, you know what I mean? Unless you're sitting on a couple $1 million to really put into somebody, you're not getting in. I mean, you can go buy MedMen stock, but who wants to do that right now, right? So, I mean, it's either really, really start from the bottom up as an operator and learn, educate yourself, gain that knowledge. As an investor, if you have those funds, you have the capabilities of getting in, and that's really it. I mean, it's very, very simple. It's not an easy game, and it's, you know, we're a very small industry. Those that got in either knew someone that was already in and operating, or was liquid and had some cash flow going and got themselves in with a good company and a good operator. It's not really too difficult to go out there and get a bartender job. You know what I mean? It's a humbling thing. You know, I started as a bartender in 2010. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. I learned everything about the business as a bartender, and then as a manager, you know, and a receptionist. You know what I mean? But that's 10 years ago. So I tell people to do that. You know, you get in and you really become, you know, someone amazing on that operating team. I mean, you're gonna get your chances. You're gonna find your way up to the top.
Yeah, I think you touched even the ancillary businesses, which I think are companies that are going to benefit from what's happening right now. And obviously, we saw those businesses building up already. I'm really excited to see what these the current state of the market means for them. Shinda, I know that you've worked with several licensees and have kind of seen businesses evolving. I mean, what are some of the indicators that you're looking for in businesses being successful currently and into the future?
Being able to pivot and being able to pull from experiences in your previous life. You know, for me, when I hear my background is in supply chain, I have worked in supply chain in almost every industry. And so when I think about the pandemic and our reaction to that, I think about how when I was working for Miller Brewing Company, you know, we stopped shipping beer to New Orleans and we were shipping water. I think about, you know, as a supply chain analyst for that same company, when there was a worldwide glass shortage, you know, we had to think outside the box and solve problems for ourselves to stay afloat. Another thing I like to really pull from during times like this, and I talk to not only my peers, but my clients about things like this. You know, I think about Harley Davidson, companies who were on the brink of going away. And it was their suppliers who kept them in business and said, hey, once you get over this hump, we're in this together, and look at them now. So, you know, what I've tried to do is be encouraging, but also realistic. I think that for folks that are able to pivot, you're going to knock it out the box. This is more of an opportunity than it is a problem for us in this industry. But I tell people, if they're looking to get in at a time like this, where can you add value? What have you done? What can you do to help a company not only get through this, but to thrive? And again, I don't see this as a problem for our industry. I see this as an opportunity. We were just starting to come back from the vape crisis as it relates to like vaping and things like that. And I have seen some data that reflects increased sales of vapes because folks are trying to cope with their stress, anxiety, and whatever else they're using cannabis for. So if we get that right and we start looking at, you know, American made materials, we start looking at things that don't have the heavy metals that make this plant not as healthy as it could be for us. I think that thinking outside the box and thinking about what the new normal is going to be is the way to survive and to potentially even get in on this.
Great, thank you. And then Shannon, I know that having operated retail before cannabis, and obviously trying to get your retail stores going, and I'm not sure if you still have Portland running right now. Is that the case?
So right now, the COVID-19 paused that too. So we moved location from our previous location. We got a location closer to University of Oregon. Same thing, supposed to open last month. Due to COVID-19, that has paused.
And so for someone like that who had all your business operations essentially ceased because of licensing, how are y'all trying to move this forward in the current environment? And obviously from an investment standpoint, you're going to be bear, I'm guessing, but what do you see as the best way to move forward there?
You know, for me, I never want to be enslaved to the cannabis industry. I'm the type of person that I diversify my portfolio. So before I came into the cannabis industry, I was a marketing manager for Sprint. When I got into the cannabis industry, when people were buying fancy cars and big houses, I was buying store real estate commercials. I was buying them in, downtown areas in Massachusetts. So, and I owned them outright. So outside of just being a cannabis entrepreneur, I'm also like, I own real estate company that has helped us during this, downturn in the cannabis industry, which I'm not, it's not hurting me personally as a person. It's just like, okay, cool. We're going to weather the storm. We're going to continue to focus on our core competencies. We're going to continue to build our foundation, and we know what we're about. And once the COVID-19 is gone, we're going to be ready to kickstart our business and get started. So that's where we're at right now. We're very optimistic. Oregon should be opening up. They're giving us the ability to open up this month or next month. So that's really exciting, and we're just going to keep going.
Yeah, great. And then Shanita, take it back to you real quick. And I guess as we wrap up here, I really want to, obviously with social equity businesses being a main focus of a lot of the legislation moving forward, hopefully, where do you want to see the business landscape shift as it pertains to social equity and small business?
I think the delays that we are seeing our social equity licensees and operators experience highlights the need to really commit resources to the program. The program is only as successful as the resources that are committed to it. And so what we've seen in LA and what we've seen in Massachusetts, where it takes years, even if you're not a social equity business, it can take you years, like it did us in Pennsylvania, to get products on the shelf. But what I'd like to see is that we now have data pointing to the health inequities in this country, and we can talk about the economic inequities. All of these things are being highlighted by this pandemic. The fact that the same people that social equity programs are, people in communities that social equity programs are committed to helping, those are the same people that are being disproportionately negatively impacted by something like COVID. So I think it's important for our legislation to first and foremost start at the federal level, and then at the state and local level, we have social equity programs that include mechanisms that are not only finance those businesses and the programs that support them, but then also hold states and local governments accountable where social equity programs are not implemented and carried out in a way that ensures that the intended recipients are truly the recipients of these programs. Again, we had the majority leader in New York, Assemblywoman Crystal Peoples-Stokes, who, committed to not passing legalization in New York unless there was a component around the economic opportunity as well as reinvestment in communities. And then she also authored a piece in the last month that talked about the devastation that this pandemic and then the recession to follow, that all of these things will have on these communities. And so we will be smarter as we legislate, including social equity. We will be smarter when we legislate. We will ensure that, you know, cannabis tax revenue is going to the right places. We've even heard folks talk about cannabis municipal bonds as a way to revive economies after this thing is kind of run its course. So I think that it, again, couldn't be better timing for us to get more serious about social equity at the federal level, state, and local level. Oh, and as an industry.
Yeah, right. And that obviously activism is such a big part of it. And I know, Shane, you've been involved early on in the process there in Massachusetts, having gone through that. Anything you want to add there?
No, like, I think she said it all. I think the biggest thing is just capital, right? So each per state, right? Massachusetts was the gold standard for social equity for some time. They were getting a lot of PR. Then all of a sudden, when you have the social equity applicants, but they go through the process and they don't have $1 million to get their shop open, $200 million to get the cultivation up and running, it now becomes a problem, right? So you see states like Illinois where they look at states like Massachusetts, take the best components of states like Cali, Massachusetts, every other state they're doing social equity, and they come together and they make it even better. They steal the good and add something, a component in there to make theirs better. So Illinois is my home state, so I was really excited for having the opportunity to help with crafting some of the languages within the social equity bill. And, you know, a big thing that we lobbied for was real estate being removed as a part of you applying, because in all other states, in all 33 states outside of Illinois, you need real estate before you can even apply. This does not even guarantee that you're going to win a license. This is just saying, gives you a ticket to play the game, right? This is the ticket to play the game. And because of zoning restrictions, supply and demand, there's a limited amount of licenses. There's a huge demand to get into the industry. It puts a huge burden on small mom and pop and social equity applicants that the state are looking to help, right? So when we dive into that, you know, we lobbied for, you know, real estate to be removed. So they did that. And also putting a revolving loan. So now using some of the taxation money and put it into a revolving loan for small mom and pop business, minorities that have been affected by the war on drugs, and the people that were arrested in the past for marijuana possession or marijuana distribution, they have the opportunity to now get into the cannabis industry. But back then, before, they didn't even have that, right? So I think that, you know, states are so states are just becoming a lot smarter, wiser, and they're pivoting and stealing good and leaving the bad.
No, and that's a really wonderful perspective too, and it's particularly how you're talking about the different markets and how that's evolved. As, hey, we thought we were going to do better here, we thought we were going to do better here, but it seems to be that's getting to a place almost where it's almost there, but it's not quite there yet. And Dustin, you know, feel free to add any more thoughts onto that. But as someone who specifically has kind of come up working in the legislation, and I know that you guys got connected legally to your investors early on, and you brought on people and have helped them grow the brand. Can you talk a little bit about what that meant coming up in that process, and maybe any suggestions as we kind of wrap up here?
Yeah, I mean, the process was I mean, super humbling for me, because I got to actually see like the legal side of it. You know, we were going after social equity. You know, myself and Django, who's head of procurement at Viola, we're going after social equity the first round. You know, back in 2018, and like one of our panelists said, like we had to have locations. You had to have them tied up. You either had to have 10-year leases or you had to purchase them. You know what I mean? So that was us going all in on ourselves. By any means, we were not millionaires at that time. But we were betting on ourselves going through that process. We locked up 4 locations for retail use here in the LA area. And because of zoning, because of what LA did in the state of California, there was in the beginning, there was state zoning and there was LA County, the city of LA had zoning laws. So they changed that within weeks of social equity getting ready to be open for applications to be turned in, and it knocked out all 4 of our locations. So with knocking out all 4 of our social equity locations, our money had already gone hard on, in escrow for these locations. And us being, self-invested, we had investors lined up as long as we had, we had our foot in the door. I mean, we had to put some change up too, so that was the only way it was enticing for an investor to come to the door for us, was if we had our money into, you know what I mean? And we let all four properties go hard with our money. And when it came to apply, we lost everything. So that process taught me a lot, you know what I mean? And I'm glad that there's a lot of people out there lobbying, and states are, becoming a lot smarter and a lot wiser on how they're putting together, the social equity programs to make them more fair. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for me meeting Al and the team at Viola, I don't really know how I would have transitioned, other than trying to have my own licensing. You know what I mean? So it was by God's favor that, we were using the same, lobbyists and the same politicians and the same groups out here in LA that Al and the team of Viola was when they were trying to, launch into the California market. So it was good and bad, and I think there's a lot of horror stories like that out here, in a lot of states. There's a lot of horror stories of people that, bet on themselves, put everything they could into it, and then it didn't work out, and that's just not fair. So it's good to see, LA's, the people of LA are really standing firm. I mean, if you've ever been to a city hall meeting there, it gets pretty intense. I've been to a couple and they're pretty wild. But everything they're speaking is complete facts. You know what I mean? We're definitely seeing a lot of corruption. We're seeing the ball, not being, played fair at all in this game. So when I was going after social equity, we were going after social equity retail. That was 2018 of March. They then pulled retail off social equity licensing and only gave out distribution and cultivation. So there was things that had been changed left and right with that program here in LA, where people just didn't have a chance. And then that first round of people that actually received social equity, it wasn't even public knowledge. You couldn't even find out who actually won those licenses. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of stuff that were going on, behind the scenes that definitely need to be addressed. And now we're seeing that. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes and to see, where exactly it ends up, and it's just a waiting game. But we just got to stay, keep our foot, on the ground and just really stay strong to the facts of what's going on here in LA. And I think it'll come out on the good side.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything to add to that? I mean, that was obviously pretty strong. I haven't lived through that too, Dustin,
Yep.
Yeah, Dustin, I want to add to that. I've lived through it too. When we first started, and when I was like 21 at the time, and I had a location in Springfield, Oregon. We were paying money. The city signed off on us. By the time it was ready for us to apply with the state, we got a letter from the city of Springfield saying that our LUX, which is land use compatibility, is too close to a K212. And it was just a difference of measurement and how they measured it. Are you measuring it from the school or from the grass? It was just, I was like, are you guys serious? Like, I'm not big balling. I'm just a small guy that's trying to do good business. And it really put me in a really, really bad position. And, just kept grinding and, got super lucky. I got like one of the location in the worst location you could think of. Like, I was like, you know what? I already lost so much money. I refused to give up. And, we got the opportunity to open up. And That's how I got started, but I totally feel your story. It's so similar to mine. And I'm so happy that, you know, you're at the trajectory that you're on right now. And Biola is such a great brand that, you know, it's beautiful to see, man.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. It's good to hear that other people, you know, got similar stories. I knew they were out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't be the only one.
As I slept in my shop for a whole year, man. PB&J,
Wow.
you know, ramen noodles. So it was a grind. Being a mom and pop shop, I feel you, man. Especially when you put your last dime into something. So I respect it.
Likewise, brother.
Hey, everyone, I think this is going to be so useful. I mean, you all had great stories and made some fabulous points. I want to wrap everything up here. You know, thank all of you first of all, but before we get going here, would love just start at Dustin, going all the way around. If you wouldn't mind telling us where we can find you, if you want to give any plugs too, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so on Instagram, you can follow me at I am Dustin Williams. And then for the brand, you can follow us at Biola. And yeah, we're you know, giving you as much up-to-date information on everything that's going on here in California and all the markets that we're in.
Shanita.
Well, you can find me in Baltimore right now for the foreseeable future. But if you're on the internet, Budding Solutions on all the platforms, and Shapini is my personal Instagram if you're looking for me.
Great. And then wrapping up, Sham.
Yeah, you can find me in Boston, Mass right now. And my social media platform is Cannot Be a C. So CANNABIYESI. So y'all know I'm Nigerian, so I had to bring in a little bit of African flavor and combine it with a little bit with the cannabis industry. So definitely check it out and stay elevated.
Yeah, and I just want to give a shout out to Green Street Agency, letting me host in their building today because I have horrible Wi-Fi where I've been. So just want to thank them real quick here in downtown LA. And so everyone, thanks for taking the time. Looking forward to having you all on this soon, and happy 420, everyone.